everyone. This is Boomer Life Lessons and Stories, and I'm Dr. Ron. I hope this episode finds you well and doing well for yourself, your career, and your family. Today's topic, we're going to be talking about the value of persistence and perseverance. I'm going to try to keep this to 12 to 15 minutes, so hopefully we will not go over time. So what about the value of persistence and perseverance? Well, I'd like to share a different screen with you right quick, and it's something from my past. And what you're looking at now, hopefully, is a screenshot of Black Oak, Arkansas's 10-year overnight success. This was a rock and roll group that really their heyday was in the 70s and early 80s. And it actually was my favorite band growing up and my wife's favorite band. I've seen them many times in concert, and I would recommend that you start with their very first album if you're interested in kind of probing that type of music and play forward. And I think you'll find that they are kind of a unique band. But literally, it's not their music that has enamored me and caused me to think about how it relates to people doing better in their life and in their career. It was what they went through. Now, I'm not here to give you their life's history or the band's history, but I really want to point to their title, Black Oak, Arkansas, 10-year overnight success. The title of this album has built into it a kind of a tension. How can it be that they were at it 10 years and then achieved overnight success? It's kind of a conundrum, isn't it? It's kind of an oxymoron. How can it be both 10 years at it and then overnight success? It took a lot of hard work for them to be successful, and that they were at it and they persisted at it and they persevered for over 10 years before they really achieved the success that they wanted to achieve. Actually, when I was listening to them back in the 70s, they were known as the hardest working rock and roll band in the country and perhaps in the world. They were touring somewhere close to 270 to 300 nights a year. There's only 365 days in the year, so that pretty much they were living on the road. And when they were not on the road doing concerts, they were in the studio recording their music. So literally, they were saying to you when they self-declared by the title of this album, 10 years overnight success, that it took them a lot of hard work and a lot of perseverance. They worked hard at working hard. So I'm going to flip back right now and stop the share so we can have this face-to-face conversation. What does it mean to persist? What does it mean to persevere? What does it mean to gain success, 10 years overnight success? Well, let me read a definition to you. Persistence: the continuation of an effect after its cause is removed. So what it means is that if you do something, there is an after effect. So it's kind of like the cosmologists say there's a cause and effect. It's a determined universe. For every effect, there's a preceding cause. And we can follow that cause-effect chain back in time to find what occurred or where something was at a previous state in a previous time. Or we can move forward in this cause and effect chain and kind of be able to predict where something is going to be. An example of that would be planetary motion. You know, we know that if we want to go to Mars and Mars is over here, we don't head in this direction, we head in that direction over there, because Mars is moving through its orbit around the sun. And we know by prediction, due to the laws of motion, the laws of physics, that in order to get to Mars in the shortest amount of time, we head off in this direction when Mars is over in that direction. And by the time we get there in Mars orbit, Mars will actually be there as well. So through this idea of cause and effect, we know that we can make things happen. We also know that there's unintentional consequences, and those typically happen to the best of our planning. This topic and this episode is not about unintended consequences because they do happen and oftentimes they're unexpected. But what this episode is about is, can we change the state of our lives by the actions we take today? Think about it. You're not happy in your career. You want to be on a different career track. Well, what plans are you making? What plans are you executing to? And what are you doing about it? Right? Perhaps we're not happy with where we are in terms of our savings or our net wealth. Well, what are you doing about it? Have you made plans to pay off your debt? And once you've paid off your debt, after you've taken care of the family, what are you doing about investments and how are you investing? Gambling is not an investment, right? But investing in good, sound assets, some of them that pay a direct return and others that give you a return after a certain amount of time. What are you doing about acquiring more assets that create additional income streams, right? You know, the definition that we've talked about in past episodes of insanity, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting to get a different result. Well, no, it doesn't happen that way. The good things that we make happen in our lives typically are due to the actions we take, the plans we make, the preparations we do, and then the execution to the plans and taking stock of where we are in the plan along the way and making course adjustments. Those will help us achieve that new state in our life, that new area we want to be, that new career or that promotion or the increase in our personal wealth, right? So, you know, if we invest in our future by getting additional education or training, or if we pay off our debt, that's investing in your future. And then taking the money that's beyond our normal obligations of providing food, shelter, security, and transportation, and we take the surplus after all that and we invest, that will get us to the future state. But, you know, sometimes we create a good plan and sometimes we're marching well to that plan and we're seeing interim little successes. We see our savings grow. We see the debt that we owe get smaller and smaller and smaller. And then we think to ourselves, well, I need to reward myself. And sometimes it's okay to reward yourself in small ways. And I said that on a previous episode. But when we begin to reward ourselves in bigger and bigger ways because we've achieved a milestone on that roadmap to our future state that we want to be in, then we begin to do something that farmers know not to do. We eat our feedstock. We eat our seed stock. Well, what does that mean? Well, farmers, when they harvest their crop, they set aside a certain amount to feed their livestock. They set aside a certain amount for future planting and future harvesting. And then they set aside for food for the family. And then the surplus they take to market and sell. And they get additional money to buy the things that they can't grow that they need on the farm. But when farmers get in a bad way, they eat the seed stock and they eat the feedstock for their livestock. And pretty soon there's nothing left for them to take care of their livestock. There's nothing left for them to plant next year. And if they can't plant next year, there's not going to be any crop to harvest. Well, how does that play to you wanting to be in a future state where you and your family are better off? You see, if you begin to pay off your debt because you want to get out of debt so you can save and invest more, and you begin to do that, but then along the way, you say, well, I'm doing okay. I'm going to take some of this money and buy that boat I wanted. Or I'm going to take some of this money and buy a more high-end car, right? Basic transportation is basic transportation. But you can buy cars that'll cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, or cost you 50 or 60 or 70 or 80 thousands of dollars, when you could use a car that only cost you 20 or 30,000 dollars and you paid cash for. But you begin to take that money that you've been saving for that investment or to pay off the debt, and you begin to reward yourself. You're not getting to where you need to be. The question I would ask you is, why do people who win the lottery go bankrupt? Well, it's because they don't persist in taking care of business. They get that windfall of cash in, and they begin to spend. They buy a bigger house, fancier cars, they buy all the toys, and pretty soon all the money from the lottery is gone, and they've spent themselves into bankruptcy because there's no money coming in to sustain their lifestyle. And as a matter of fact, there's no money left to pay the bills for the fancier cars and the fancier houses and things of that sort. So persistence is an effect. An example I would give you is the fluorescent effect. You take some phosphorus compounds and you excite them with ultraviolet light or different wavelengths of light. And then you take that stimulus away and put them in a dark space. And you see that for a time, they emit light of their own. They emit light by themselves. They return the energy in the form of light to the environment. They fluoresce. But eventually, that persistence of the fluorescing, the emitting of light, begins to get longer in between and soon die out. So persistence will only get you so far. What that says is that if you've created a plan and you persisted to execute to a plan to a certain interim state, but then you stop, the benefits of that persisting will last for a short time, and it's a false sense of security. The problem is you haven't taken the step further, and that is to persevere. That means work hard at working hard. That's my definition from a previous episode of persistence. Working hard at working hard is perseverance throughout the time that you have to work. So persistence in a course of action, a purpose, a state, especially in spite of difficulties, obstacles, disappointments, and discouragements. A steady persistence in following the plan, a steady persistence in executing to the plan, a steady persistence in working hard to achieve a better state, whether that better state is preparing yourself to be the best candidate for the promotion, whether it's through higher education, better training, better job results, working longer, harder, adding more value to the company, or whether it's paying off your debt and keeping your debt paid off, persisting, working hard and keeping your debt paid off so that you can use the surplus funds to invest in types of assets that will pay you an income stream later on in your life. And there are people, and I can tell you it does happen, I made this statement in the previous episode or two, that your returns on your investment can pay you income that is many times over what you earn in your salary. So you become more wealthy. Now, you ask a millionaire, are they wealthy? They'll say no. Why? Because they don't feel wealthy. They're persisting at trying to create more value for their family by doing the right things. As a matter of fact, I recently had to call AAA to come and rescue me off the side of the interstate. My car literally died. It lost compression. I coasted to the side. Fortunately, I was near an exit. I coasted off the interstate. And I sat there about 30 minutes after I'd called AAA before they came. And the AAA towed my car to the dealership. And they're going to tell me in the next 2 or 3 days what's wrong with my car. But many of my friends and some of my family members have said, you need to buy a new car. Well, I like my car. And as long as it doesn't cost me more than $2 or $3 or a few $1,000s, I'll probably have that car repaired and avoid buying a brand new car, which I maybe could pay cash for, but I have that money set aside for other assets, right? Other plans, such as real estate. And so why would I spend that money on a car that's going to depreciate when I could use that money to buy an asset that will appreciate? And that is also a previous episode based on some of the things that Andrew Carnegie has said about investing. So you have to persist in your focus on your plan to eliminate debt, keep debt at bay, and only invest in things that will return and pay you a dividend or pay you an income stream at some future date. For the lack of persistence and perseverance, people go broke. For the lack of persistence and perseverance, people stay where they are and wonder why their life never gets better. For the lack of persistence and perseverance and following a critical thinking plan that is modified midstream in real time as things you become aware of things that are impacting you that you couldn't possibly have anticipated, you make course corrections in your plan, and then you continue to persist in executing to the plan by persevering, knowing that you will be in a better state in some future time, which that's where your plan is taking you. Your family will be in a better state because you persevered, and you will be better at your job, enjoying those promotions and increases in salary because you followed a plan, you invested in yourself in education and in training, and hard work by adding value to the company. That will get you those promotions that you want. You've got to differentiate yourself from the competition. So those individuals that persist and persevere, like Black Oak, Arkansas, their 10-year overnight success, that is you. Some of you may achieve it sooner, in a year or two. Some of you may take 10 years. Some of you may take your working career. But when you retire, you will enjoy the fruits of your labor, you and your family, and you will not have to worry about the future, because your future will be secured by what you've invested in and increased your wealth by doing so. And with that, my friends, I wish you all the best. Persist and persevere, and you will have a great career and life. Take care, and I will see you in the next episode.